Hi everyone, this is Abdi Nazemian, the author of Like a Love Story, and I'm so honored to share this video with the Writing Our Lives community about how and why I write. Well, I write first and foremost because I know firsthand the power of storytelling. When I moved to the United States, I was 10 years old, and I felt very different from the other kids. I looked different. I felt different inside, and books and movies were very much where I found refuge, and they saved me. But as much as they saved me, I also never saw myself reflected in the pages of a book or on a screen. I didn't really have any storytelling that could help guide my way as I figured out my identity as a queer Iranian. And I never want any young person to feel invisible like I did. So on the one hand, I write because I want people to see themselves reflected in the pages of my books. And on the other hand, I also write for those who may not see themselves reflected in those pages to create more empathy, because I really do believe storytelling is our greatest tool for empathy. And I hope anyone who reads Like a Love Story who doesn't have a lot of experience with the queer community or the Iranian community puts down the book and is reminded of our common humanity. How I write is a very complicated process. I'm not one of those writers who is able to write a certain number of pages every day or a certain word count every day. I'm very much in awe of those writers. I'm more somebody who often has writer's block or dry spells. And then also sometimes, for me, the creative process feels like magic, where I just write a lot in a day or a week. And what I've come to realize for myself is that the writing process is so much more than sitting at your computer and writing. And so, of course, I write every day, because to me, writing is reading, it's doing research, it's being present for new experiences, traveling, walking through new neighborhoods, observation. Anything that deepens the work that you do on the page, to me, is part of the writing process. But I do write every day, not necessarily on a project, but in a journal. I am very devoted to journaling, and I start every morning by writing in a journal. To me, journaling keeps your writing muscles strong in between projects, but more than that, it gets all the thoughts in your head out onto the page, so that when you are working on a project, you can be present for the voices that aren't your own. Though I write in a physical journal every morning, I also have a digital journal, and the digital journal is very useful. What I do with it, and this is a piece of advice that came from a great writer to me, what I do with that is anytime I'm working on a project on my computer, if I feel blocked or I'm self-editing in my brain, I go to my digital journal and I vent out my thoughts in there. And then when I'm ready, I go back to my project. And the goal with the digital journal is just never to stop writing. So when you're writing, you don't want to self-edit, you don't want to stop. And I found that to be a very useful tool. So I'll end with a prompt. The prompts that I've found most helpful in my life are all about unlocking the subconscious. And so I'm gonna share with you one of my favorite exercises, which I do very often before I start writing. All you need is a piece of blank paper and a pen, and you start by writing a word in the middle of the page. It can be any word, but for today, why don't we choose love, a favorite word of mine. And after you've written the word love, draw a line from that word, and at the other end of the line, draw the first word that comes to your mind. And then do the same thing with this new word. You draw a line from this new word to a third word that's the first word that comes to your mind. And you keep repeating this until the page is covered in words, and it'll look something like this. And like I said, I do this all the time. And what I've found is that this word association game really frees your mind and unlocks different subconscious associations that you may not have on hand, and you'll find some really surprising things in your writing, I think, if you do an exercise like this. Anyway, in closing, I'd just like to say, keep writing to everybody, and if you want a little more writing advice from me, I would say write something personal and write what you need to write. I used to teach screenwriting, and one thing I often found is that the best writing was always the writing that was most personal and that people wrote because they had to self-express. And that doesn't mean that you can't write fantasy, you can't write things that are, deeply different from your life experience, but it just means that you have to find that personal reason that you need to tell that story and that it's your story to tell. Don't worry what others will think. Write the story you need, and it will move people. Okay, I'm wishing everyone a wonderful creative process. Thank you all.